When I held that pen in my hand, my fingers trembled, not from fear, but from weakness. The stroke had left me slower, foggier than before. The words on the paper swam in front of me like minnows in murky water. I remember asking her, "Are you sure this is just the insurance thing?" And she smiled. That soft, practiced smile she always used when she wanted me to stop asking questions. "Yes, Mama Ruth," she said, pressing her manicured hand over mine. "Just some routine paperwork for the policy. You know, hospitals are so fussy these days." I wanted to believe her. I really did. So, I signed. And with that one shaky signature, I signed away everything my late husband and I had worked our whole lives for. The house with the creaky porch, the hydrangeas he planted the year our son was born, the kitchen that still smelled faintly of his pipe tobacco. But back then, I didn't know any of that. Back then, I still believed family meant safety. Before my stroke, life in that house had a rhythm. Morning sunlight spilled through the lace curtains, landing on the kitchen table where I'd have my tea and read the paper. My son Daniel stopped by most evenings on his way home from work, sometimes just to grab leftovers, sometimes to sit with me for a while and talk about his day. When he married Clarissa, I tried my best to welcome her. She was beautiful, I'll give her that. Tall, always put together, with a voice that could turn syrupy sweet when she wanted something. I didn't take to her immediately, but I reminded myself, "Ruth, she's your son's wife now. Don't meddle." At first, things were fine. She'd bring flowers on Sundays, bake me lemon squares on holidays, call me Mama Ruth in that sing-song tone. But there was something about her that made me feel like I was being studied, like she was always calculating what I was worth to her. When Daniel and I talked, it was always brief. "Work's been crazy," he'd say, kissing the top of my head. Or Clarissa says we should refinance the house. Every time he said her name, I heard a faint edge in his voice, part pride, part submission. Still, I told myself not to interfere. I'd been a wife too. I knew sometimes a man's peace at home depended on how much he let his wife have her way. The day of my stroke started like any other. Coffee, radio, sunlight warming the old linoleum floor. I was trimming the roses out back when my vision blurred. My knees gave out before I could call for help. I woke up 3 days later in the hospital, the beeping of machines and smell of disinfectant filling my head. Daniel was there, his hand clasped around mine. Clarissa hovered in the corner, scrolling through her phone. "You gave us a scare, Mom," he said. His eyes were puffy, his voice tired. "Doctor says you'll need some rest, maybe a bit of help managing things for a while." Clarissa chimed in. "Don't worry, Mama Ruth. We'll take care of everything. Bills, insurance, even your medications. You just focus on getting better." Her words should have been comforting, but the way she said everything made me uneasy. When I came home, they had already rearranged my kitchen for safety. The medicine cabinet was locked, my checkbook was missing. "We're handling your bills online now," Clarissa said. "And my car keys? Gone. You shouldn't be driving just yet, Mama Ruth." I didn't argue. The stroke had left me weak, and honestly, it was nice to have help. But every time she touched something that had been mine, my drawer, my papers, even the lace curtains I'd sewn myself, I felt something in my chest tighten. The papers came about a month later. Clarissa showed up one morning in her soft pink cardigan, carrying a folder. She made tea for both of us, humming as she poured. "These are just a few things the insurance company sent over. We'll need your signature so the payments go through." The words blurred before me. My vision was still not sharp, and the lines of text looked like ants marching in circles. "I can't quite make it out," I said, squinting. "Are you sure this is just insurance?" "Of course," she said, placing her hand gently over mine again. "You trust me, don't you?" And I did, because she was my daughter-in-law, because Daniel loved her, because I was tired of feeling helpless. So I signed. Twice, maybe even 3 times. For a while, everything seemed fine. Clarissa started visiting less, though. Daniel stopped by mostly alone, always looking distracted. He'd talk about his job, about some new business opportunity Clarissa was pushing him into. Once I asked if they needed help with anything. He smiled faintly. "No, Mom. Clarissa says we're doing fine." But there was a shadow in his eyes. One afternoon, I decided to surprise them with dinner. I hadn't been to their house since before the hospital, so I made my famous roast chicken and called a cab. When I arrived, I noticed their new car in the driveway. Sleek, shiny, too expensive for Daniel's modest salary. Clarissa opened the door, startled. "Oh, Mama Ruth, you should have called first." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Daniel wasn't home," she said, so I left the food, hugged her awkwardly, and went back home. But as I walked through my front door, I noticed something strange. The kitchen drawer where I kept my house deed and old tax papers was open. The folder was gone. When I asked Daniel later, he brushed it off, said Clarissa had been organizing things for me. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, a heaviness in my chest. Something wasn't right. And I would soon find out just how deep her betrayal ran.
The first real sign came a week later. A letter arrived in the mail. Thick envelope, official-looking. The return address said County Records Office. I assumed it was something about property tax, maybe an update after my hospitalization, but when I opened it, the words stopped me cold. Notice of property transfer, recorded in County Deeds Registry. The date was from a month ago, the same week Clarissa had me sign those insurance papers. And under new owner, printed neatly in bold, it said, Clarissa May Jennings. For a long moment, I couldn't breathe. The room seemed to tilt. I read it again, thinking maybe my vision was failing me, but it was there, clear as day. My home, my husband's name replaced with hers. I called Daniel right away. He didn't pick up. I left a message, my voice trembling. "Son, please call me back. There's been a mistake." An hour later, Clarissa called instead. Her tone was syrupy sweet. "Oh, Mama Ruth, I meant to explain. It's just a little arrangement we made to make sure everything's protected while you recover. You're still living there. Nothing's changed." "Protected?" I repeated, my voice shaking. "Clarissa, this says the house is yours?" She laughed softly. "Oh, don't be so dramatic. It's just a formality. You wouldn't want the bank or the hospital coming after your property if something happened, would you? We're family, after all." That word, family, had never sounded so hollow. I waited for Daniel that evening. He came by late, after dark, his shoulders slumped, eyes tired. I held up the letter as soon as he stepped inside. "Daniel, tell me this isn't true." He rubbed the back of his neck. "Mom, please don't make a big deal." "Don't make a big deal?" My voice cracked. "You let her take this house, the home your father built?" He sighed. "It's just paperwork. Clarissa said it's temporary. You know she's good with finances. She said it would help with taxes and you believed her?" I asked, stunned. He looked away. That silence, that cowardly silence, hurt more than anything. "Daniel," I whispered, "do you even know what she's doing?" He didn't answer. He just muttered something about needing to get home before she worried, and left me standing there with tears sliding down my cheeks. The next few weeks were heavy with tension. Clarissa stopped visiting altogether. Daniel came by less often. When I did see him, he was distracted, restless. I could tell he knew more than he wanted to admit. Then came the knock at the door. 2 men in suits stood there, holding clipboards. "Ma'am," one said politely, "we're here for the property inspection." The new owner requested it. The new owner. I felt my knees weaken. gripping the edge of the door for balance. "You must be mistaken," I managed to say. "This is my home." The man checked his paper. "It says here it belongs to a Miss Clarissa May Jennings. We were told you're the tenant?" Tenant. That word hit harder than the stroke ever had. I closed the door, my heart pounding. The house, my home, didn't feel like mine anymore. Every creak in the floorboards, every family photo on the wall seemed to mock me. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat in the dark living room, the only light coming from the porch lamp flickering through the window. I whispered to my late husband's picture, "Harold, I'm so sorry. I should have seen it coming." The next morning, I called a lawyer, a kind man named Mr. Fletcher, who had helped us with our will years ago. He listened patiently as I told him everything. When he finished, he sighed. "Mrs. Jennings, do you recall exactly what you signed?" I closed my eyes. No, I was still recovering. My vision was bad. Clarissa said it was insurance paperwork. "That's how they get you," he said gently. "If you signed a deed transfer and it was notarized, the county will recognize it as legal, even if you were misled." I felt my stomach twist. "So there's nothing I can do?" "Not necessarily," he said. "If we can prove fraud or incapacity at the time of signing, we might have a case. But it'll be difficult. Do you have any witnesses?" I thought for a long moment. Daniel was in the house. He might have seen something. "Then start there," he said. "Try talking to him again, calmly. Maybe he'll tell you the truth." That night, I cooked Daniel's favorite meal, pot roast with carrots and potatoes, the kind that used to make him come running as a boy. I hoped the smell would remind him of who I was, of what this house meant to him. He came by reluctantly, standing in the doorway like a stranger. "Daniel," I said softly, "sit down, please." He did, his hands clasped together on the table. "Do you remember the day Clarissa had me sign those papers?" I asked. He nodded slowly. "Yeah." "Did you see what they were?" I pressed. He hesitated. I saw the word deed at the top. I thought it might just be something for the mortgage." "Daniel," I whispered, tears welling in my eyes, "how could you let this happen?" He looked broken, ashamed. "Mom, you have to understand. Clarissa said it was to protect you. She said if anything happened, she'd handle the estate. I thought she was helping." I stared at him. The boy I had raised, the boy who used to bring me wildflowers after school, and I barely recognized him. "Son," I said, my voice trembling but firm, "she's not protecting me. She's stealing from me, from you, from your father's memory." He dropped his gaze. "I don't know what to do." I reached across the table and took his hand. "Then start by telling the truth." He didn't answer, but for the first time, I saw guilt flicker across his face like a crack in a wall. 2 days later, he called. His voice was shaking. "Mom, you were right. I checked the files on Clarissa's laptop. There's a contract. She's already listed the house for sale." For a moment, I couldn't speak. "She what?" "She plans to sell it, Mom. She told the agent you agreed to move into assisted living. The sale's already in process." Everything went quiet. I could hear the blood rushing in my ears, the faint ticking of the kitchen clock. "She's selling my home," I whispered. And just like that, something inside me hardened. I wasn't helpless anymore. She had underestimated me, the quiet woman who baked pies and knit sweaters, but she was about to learn that even a wounded heart can fight back when pushed too far.
The next morning, I woke up before the sun. My body ached, but my mind was clear for the first time in months. The fear that had been gripping me turned into something sharper: resolve. I brewed my coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and opened my old recipe notebook, not for cooking but for comfort. Between the yellowed pages, I found what I was really looking for: the original deed to my home, signed by Harold and me 35 years ago. The paper had softened with age, but the ink was still there, steady and sure. Our names, not hers, not Clarissa's. I took a deep breath. "You built this house with your hands, Harold," I whispered to the empty kitchen, "and I'll be damned if I let someone steal it with a smile." I called Mr. Fletcher again and told him everything Daniel had uncovered: the listing, the fake claim about assisted living, the deceit. He didn't sound surprised. "Unfortunately, Mrs. Jennings, people like your daughter-in-law do this more often than you'd think. But if your son's willing to testify that she misled you, we might have grounds for fraud." "I'll bring him," I said firmly. Daniel was hesitant at first. "Mom, she'll destroy me," he said over the phone. "You don't know how she gets when she's cornered." "Then let her," I replied quietly. "I've been cornered long enough." There was a pause. Then softly, he said, "Okay." We met at Mr. Fletcher's office that Thursday, a small, warm room lined with old law books and the faint scent of lemon polish. Daniel sat beside me, his hands clasped tight. Mr. Fletcher explained the plan: file a motion to halt the sale, claim incapacity due to my medical condition at the time of signing, and request a formal investigation into Clarissa's actions. "Once we file this," he warned, "she'll know. It could get ugly." I nodded. "She already made it ugly, Mr. Fletcher. I'm just giving it a name." That evening, Clarissa showed up unannounced. I heard her car before I saw her, that low, expensive hum that didn't belong on our quiet street. She walked in without knocking, wearing her usual perfume, floral and sharp. "Mama Ruth," she said with a bright smile that didn't fool me anymore, "I heard from Daniel that you're getting yourself all worked up about those papers. You shouldn't stress, not in your condition." "I'm not stressed," I said evenly, turning from the stove. "Just curious." "Curious?" I leaned on the counter, studying her. Curious why a woman who claims to care about family would lie, cheat, and steal from someone who took her in. Her smile faltered. "I don't know what Daniel told you, but—" "Oh, Daniel told me plenty," I interrupted. "He found the listing, the one where you're selling my home." Her eyes flickered, a brief crack in her mask, then she laughed. "Oh, that. Just exploring options, Mama Ruth. You said yourself this house was too much to manage." "I never said that." She stepped closer, her tone dropping. "Listen, you can make this easy or hard. You're old, you've been sick. Nobody's going to believe you remember what you signed." That's when I saw the real her, the woman behind the sweet smile. Cold, calculating. "You think because I'm weak, I'm blind? You think a stroke took away my soul?" She smirked. "I think it took away your control." I felt my pulse quicken, but I held her gaze. "You might be surprised what's left in me, Clarissa." And before she could reply, I handed her a folded piece of paper. The temporary injunction Mr. Fletcher had filed that morning. "This stops the sale until a judge decides whether you stole from me." For the first time, I saw fear in her eyes. The weeks that followed were exhausting. Lawyers, hearings, paperwork, all of it a blur. Clarissa played innocent at first, claiming it was all a misunderstanding, that she was only trying to help. But evidence spoke louder than her crocodile tears. Emails surfaced, messages between her and the real estate agent, conversations about selling the old woman's house before she changes her mind.
Daniel even found one where she mentioned the listing price and how much profit they'd walk away with. When Mr. Fletcher showed those emails in court, the room went silent. Clarissa's face drained of color. Daniel couldn't even look at her. I'll never forget the day the judge made his ruling. Given the circumstances and the evidence of misleading intent, the court finds that the transfer of property was fraudulent. Ownership of the residence will be restored to Mrs. Ruth Jennings immediately. The gavel hit the bench with a sharp crack that sounded like thunder. I felt tears sting my eyes, not of sadness, but release. The weight that had been crushing my chest for months lifted. Clarissa stood there motionless, her jaw tight, her eyes burning holes into me. She didn't say a word as she walked out, heels clicking like gunshots on the marble floor. Daniel followed her out, but not before pausing beside me. "I'm so sorry, Mom," he whispered. I took his hand. "Son, you can't change what's been done. Just don't let it happen again." He nodded, tears filling his eyes. "I just wish I'd seen it sooner." "We all see the truth eventually," I said softly. "Some of us just need to lose something first." That night, I sat on my porch under the fading orange light of sunset. The hydrangeas were blooming again, their petals soft and blue, just like Harold used to love. For the first time in months, the house felt like mine again. Every creak, every breeze, every worn corner of the porch belonged to me, to us. But even in victory, there was no joy in seeing Clarissa fall, only a deep, quiet sadness. Because betrayal like that doesn't come from a stranger. It comes from someone you once trusted enough to hand a pen to. And I'd done that. Willingly.
Clarissa's downfall didn't happen in one big explosion. It came in small humiliations, the kind that eat at pride day after day. The neighborhood where we lived was small, the kind of place where everyone's curtains fluttered when a car pulled into a driveway. Word of the court ruling spread fast. Mrs. Alvarez from next door came by with a pie and a knowing shake of her head. "Some people don't know when to stop taking," she said softly. Clarissa's friends, the ones who used to crowd around her at church with their compliments about her handbags and shoes, started keeping their distance. Daniel told me she had been asked to resign from the real estate firm where she'd recently started. Too much bad publicity, they said. For weeks afterward, my phone rang off the hook with neighbors offering help, meals, or just words of support. It felt strange, kindness replacing the cold distance that had crept in when Clarissa first arrived, but I learned to accept it. Sometimes community steps in where family fails. Daniel moved back into the house for a while. Not permanently, just until he could figure things out. He helped me fix the leaky faucet, painted the porch railing, and mowed the lawn. We didn't talk much about Clarissa, though her ghost hung between us like steam from a kettle. One evening, as we sat watching the news, he finally said it. "Mom, I let her change me. I knew she was wrong, but I wanted peace more than truth." I looked at him, my grown son with the same tired eyes Harold used to have after long work days. Peace built on silence isn't peace, Daniel. It's just waiting for the next storm. He nodded, blinking back tears. "I don't deserve your forgiveness." I reached for his hand. "Forgiveness isn't something you deserve, son. It's something you choose to give." That was the first real smile I'd seen on his face in months. The first time I saw Clarissa again was at the grocery store of all places. She was by the checkout, dressed plainly, no makeup, almost unrecognizable. When our eyes met, she froze. I could see the flicker of shame before she looked away. I almost walked past her, but something in me, maybe pity, maybe closure, made me stop. "Clarissa?" I said quietly. She turned, her voice thin.
Mama Ruth? I'm not here to scold you. I just hope you find whatever you were looking for. Money doesn't build a home. People do. Her eyes filled, but she said nothing. She just nodded, lips trembling. For the first time, I saw her more than a villain, just a broken woman who thought taking would fill the emptiness inside her. When I walked away, the weight I'd carried for so long seemed lighter. Months passed. The house began to feel alive again. I repainted the kitchen, replanted the hydrangeas, even started baking for the church bazaar again. Daniel eventually moved into a small apartment nearby. He stopped drinking the bitter coffee Clarissa liked and went back to his old habits, gardening, fixing things, calling me every evening just to say goodnight. One day, he came over with a small envelope. "What's this?" I asked. He said, "Something I've been meaning to do." Inside was a check, the amount Clarissa had drained from my account. "I know you don't need it, Mom, but I need to make it right." I folded the check and handed it back. "You already did, son. You came home." Sometimes I still think about that day, the pen in my trembling hand, the trust that blinded me. It's a strange thing, how betrayal starts quietly. No shouting, no thunder, just a signature, a smile, a lie wrapped in love. But if life has taught me anything, it's this. You can lose everything. Your strength, your money, your home, and still come out whole if you keep your dignity. Because dignity is the one thing no one can sign away from you. That summer, I started volunteering at the community center, helping older folks with their paperwork. It felt like closing a circle, using my pain to protect someone else's peace. When I'd hand them a pen, I'd smile and say, "Don't you sign a thing until you know exactly what it means." Sometimes they'd laugh, sometimes they'd cry, but every time I felt Harold's presence, quiet, proud. The house became more than a place again. It became a reminder of endurance, of lessons learned too late but remembered forever. Daniel came by one evening with a bouquet of sunflowers. He said, "For your garden," and set them on the table. We ate dinner on the porch, the same spot where Harold and I used to sit in the twilight. The crickets hummed, the air smelled of fresh-cut grass, and for the first time in a long while, there was peace. Real peace. Daniel raised his glass of sweet tea. He said, "To Dad, and to you, for fighting for what's right." I clinked my glass to his. To learning, the hard way, maybe, that love should never come with paperwork. He laughed, and for a moment I saw the boy he used to be. When the moon rose over the yard, I leaned back and looked at my house, my windows glowing warm in the night. I thought about how close I'd come to losing it all, and how somehow I'd gained something better. Wisdom, strength, and a son who finally understood me. Clarissa's name was long gone from the deed, but in a strange way, her betrayal had planted something lasting. Not bitterness, but clarity. Because sometimes the hardest truths come wrapped in the faces of people we love, and facing them, as painful as it is the only way to keep from losing ourselves.
I still think about that pen sometimes. How light it felt in my hand. How easy it was to give away something that had taken a lifetime to build. Not because someone forced me, but because I trusted the wrong smile. When I sit on my porch now, I watch the light move across the walls Harold painted, and I remind myself that every nail, every brick in this house has a story, a piece of our lives, and I almost let it all slip away. Not because of greed or weakness, but because I believed that family could never hurt you. But the truth is, family can hurt you, sometimes worse than anyone else, because you never see it coming from the people you love. Clarissa's betrayal broke something in me, but it also built something new.
It taught me that protecting yourself isn't selfish. It's survival. That asking questions doesn't mean you're suspicious, it means you're wise. If you take anything from my story, I hope it's this. Don't sign your name to anything you don't understand. Not on paper, not in love, not in silence. Trust should never be blind. And if someone insists it should be, maybe that's your first warning. These days, Daniel and I laugh more. He still helps me around the house, though I like to tease him that I can manage just fine. We've both learned what it means to start again, not with new houses or fancy cars, but with truth. The kind of truth that makes you sleep easy at night. I forgave Clarissa in my own way, not because she asked, but because I didn't want her shadow in my home anymore. I hope wherever she is, she finds peace, but far from the place she tried to take. As for me, I've learned that sometimes the fight to keep what's yours isn't just about property. It's about identity, about dignity, about remembering who you are when someone else tries to write your story for you. And I won't let anyone do that again. Would you have forgiven her? Or would you have let her learn her lesson the hard way? Tell me what you would have done in the comments. And if my story touched you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay for the next one. There's always another voice, another lesson waiting to be heard.